Um, we are recording. So welcome everybody to our Team Hope call today. I'm really excited because we have a special guest with us joining us. To give a little introduction to Michelle, I met her a few years ago. It's actually been a few years. She reached out to me just because a lot of her team are homeschooling mamas, and so I jumped on a team call with them to kind of really get real, I guess, about building this business. And instantly I was like, these are my people. Like, I loved her team, and they reminded me a lot of so many of us at Team Hope. And, you know, fast forward a few years, every once in a while I would get one of Michelle's posts popping up in my news feed. And so I kind of kept tabs. And recently I've just seen some of her live videos, and I have to say it's super rare for me to stop and watch somebody's live video. Like, I see the value of it, I make them, but it's rare for me to like actually click on it to hear it and then to finish out the whole thing. And Michelle is just like, she just knows how to really capture people, like capture her audience. And I think it's really because she is so true to who she is. Like, I felt like every time I see her, it is an honest representation of who she is. And I love her vulnerability, and I love what she shares. Everybody on this team knows that I love Brene Brown. Like, I'm kind of obsessed with her. And, you know, she's this expert on shame and fear and vulnerability. And I feel like Michelle embodies that perfectly. And I didn't even realize, but Michelle's like, she's a speaker, motivational speaker. She has a book that is now in my shopping cart. And like, I didn't even realize, Michelle, that you had all these things when I asked you to host this call. So I feel incredibly humble and grateful that you agreed to come on. So I will turn the time over to you. And if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your story and how you came across Beachbody, and then kind of where you're at right now and with the different things you do. And I might have just lost her. I hope. Oh, Michelle, there you are.
Sorry, I'm gonna put my phone in. I've been having these terrible internet problems, and it's.
Uh-oh. You froze again. So if you're still talking, we can't hear you.
Like,
oh, there you go. Yeah, I know, we're fixing the problem.
I think she said she was going to connect
them again, so I'm going to.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, am I still on?
Yes.
Is that better?
Yes, you haven't froze yet.
Okay, good, because I have the worst internet in the world. I live on top of a mountain, and we have had CenturyLink out here so many times. I literally have almost blown my gasket so many times because our work is online, and I am always struggling with connection. I'm like, it does work. Oh, thank you so much. I didn't realize you didn't know that I'd written a book. Anyway, yeah, I was so happy to get on here and return the favor, because you really helped out our team quite a bit when you came on to speak, you know, and now I'm a homeschooling mom too. I'm homeschooling my kids. So I took that leap as well. So I'm right back at it. So, yeah, a little bit about me and why I've been able to open up and share the way I have is, my book is called Let Go of the Fear. And the reason I wrote a book is it's so funny. It went right along with my Beachbody journey. And my whole journey started with me taking the leap to do my first challenge, because when I first started this journey, I was extremely negative to myself. I was constantly speaking horrible things to myself all day. F you, I hate you, you're horrible. My past was my present. And I was constantly battling those negative voices. And I was afraid to be real. I would never, ever be real like I am now when I first started this journey. So learning how to reach out and open up, because we have to do that to be successful in our business, is what also was the steps I took to find healing in my own life and to do, and like you said with Brene Brown, who I love, Brene Brown. If you haven't listened to her, you got to listen to her books. Definitely The Power of Vulnerability and Rising Strong. But Brene Brown, just learning how to open myself up and to be vulnerable was huge, but it took one step at a time, you know? So I put together a presentation that kind of goes over the stuff from my book in addition to a couple things, since, and I might end up going a little bit. I've actually never gone through this specific presentation before because I really wanted to try to, combine that whole, sense of knowing that we can do hard things, you know, because as moms, it's so easy to have an excuse not to do stuff because we have good excuses. We have valid excuses. We could easily say, this is too much, I can't do it. And no one would look at us and say, oh, I get it. You know, or no one would say, you can't do, you should be doing that. They'd be like, oh, you're totally fine. I understand. So it's having that concept of knowing we can do hard things and also knowing why we are afraid to be vulnerable and how to break that down. So I'm going to share my screen. If you have any questions, please feel free to speak up during the call or put in the chat. We can answer later. But regardless, I would love to answer any questions. This is my sweet spot. So I'm just really grateful for this opportunity to share what I'm so passionate about. I think this is fun. I need to make sure this is the right. I think this is the right one. I think. Hold on here. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, this is the right one. I had 3 different presentations up. So, all right. So first, you know, I just wanted to talk about fear and about how there are so often in our life. I think that there are things we don't do or things that we don't pursue, and we don't realize that it's fear that's holding us back. So, you know how people say you need to get out of your comfort zone. You know, you got to get out of your comfort zone. Well, one of the things that I really discovered during my own healing and growth was that the boundary of our comfort zone is created by fear. You know, fear of the unknown, fear of what we have known, fear of what's ahead. That's that uncomfortable feeling as we get closer and closer to our boundary, our comfort zone. That's what that is. That feeling is fear. So some of our top fears as coaches, what are they? I mean, come on, inviting, being real, being vulnerable on social media, allowing people to see the real person that we are, you know, worrying about what people will think, not wanting to be salesy. That's the biggest one. You know, that was my biggest objection. You know, I was terrified of being salesy. And of course, our fear of failing. So in order to be able to overcome these fears, we have to know what we're afraid of. What is the real fear that we're dealing with here? Again, in inviting, what if they say no? What if they get mad? What if they delete me? What if they block me? These are all things that I've heard my coaches say that I would say I was afraid of. I'm afraid to show the real me on social media. What are people going to think? What if they laugh at me? What if they make fun of me? What if they don't want to be my friend anymore? What if they block me? What if they delete me? Oh my gosh, I used to be terrified to find out if someone deleted me as a friend. You know, that was a huge fear. And again, what if I fail? And what if I succeed? All of these fears have what I like to call root fears. It's not that we're afraid to send an invitation. There's something beneath that. There's a fear that lies beneath that that's holding us back. And the more that we can break it down, the more that we're able to tackle it, you know, and move beyond it. Like we're going up to the edge, that boundary of our comfort zone, we're getting closer and closer. And all of a sudden we're like, I just don't want to go there. And we stop. But if we can take that invisible shield off and actually see what was like a cloaking thing is what if you ever watch Once Upon a Time, they have these cloaking things where you can't see something, right? Well, remove the cloaking thing and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's what I'm afraid of. Well, now we have something to work with. So how do we define fear? This is my definition of fear. It's a lack of safety and a fullness of the unknown. We feel fear when we do not feel safe. When we just, there's just no, like we know that something, or we feel in the depth of our being that we're going to be injured. whether it's internally or externally. And the fullness of the unknown, we don't know what's next. I mean, think about any horror movies, if you've ever watched one. What makes them so scary? Or suspenseful movies, what makes them so scary? It's the fact that we don't know what's happening next, you know? And we can apply that to so many things in our life. So one of my big aha moments, and I'm a doula, and I went to a doula class, and years ago, I remember them talking about how if a baby's born and a baby's separated from the mother and not held and hugged and loved on, but they're fed and changed, so they have their basic needs, but they're not given that, they said that they could die. I remember thinking, why? When I started researching fear, that came to my mind. I'm like, why is that the case? So I started researching on Google. I started Googling, and this is what I came up with: Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, it's a lack of safety. So our first hierarchy of needs that we have as a human being are our physiological needs. We have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to drink water, we need to go to the bathroom. We don't do these things, we die. 100%, we don't have this stuff, we die. So we're not safe if we don't have that. The second level is safety and security. It's having a home, having clothes on our back, knowing that our bodies are safe, that we're not going to be harmed. That's our second level of security, of needs as human beings. Well, at the third level, when I saw the third level, I was in shock to a certain extent, because I remember thinking, I used to think something was wrong with me. And when I saw this third level, it was a huge aha moment, because our third level of needs as a human being is that of love and belonging. And so often, especially as women, all the crappy things that have happened to us, many of us, if you haven't, God bless you. You know what I mean? But looking at statistics, all the crappy things that have happened to us as we've grown up, the things that happen that say you're not worth it, you're not lovable, you're not worthy of respect, all these things come right back to that level of love and belonging. So when I was sitting there tearing myself apart because I did not feel lovable, I felt like nobody cared, like I wasn't enough. No matter what I did, I didn't feel like I was enough. And it's because of that third level right there of love and belonging. We need that. And so a lot of our insecurities as coaches, that's the level of fear that we're talking about. We don't feel safe when it comes to love, when it comes to like we belong. And so that we get scared. That's why we get afraid to invite. What if they reject me? We're afraid to be real. We're afraid of what others think. We're afraid of failing. Why? Because of rejection. The root fears of rejection, of feeling unlovable and unworthy, of not belonging, of being unwanted. Why are we afraid if someone deletes us as a friend on Facebook? Because we're not wanted. Again, it's right back at that level. You know, but something that really struck me, and this is stuff that's not in the book because I'm Christian. If you're not, that's totally fine. But one of the things that really struck me is that for me, like that, seeing that need for love and belonging, you know, and when I look at my faith and the fact that God is love, you know, and that he fulfills that need, he's the one that's supposed to fulfill that need within me, and I shouldn't worry about this stuff from other people. But that sense of not belonging was so huge and so frightening for me that I was terrified of being the real person, being the real me on Facebook. So vulnerability, and I didn't put the definition in here, but vulnerability, the very definition of that word is to open ourselves up to being hurt. So when we're posting on Facebook and we're being real, we are opening ourselves up to being hurt and not safe at that third level of our human needs. We're opening ourselves up to possibly be rejected. We're opening ourselves up to the thought that maybe we're going to feel a little bit unlovable, or that maybe we're not going to belong. But I am telling you, the more that we come to understand that we are lovable as we are, and we have that wholeness inside of us, the less we care, because we know, like Brene Brown says, and I think she has this in Daring Greatly, but in one of her books, she says that she keeps a list of the people whose names matter. and she keeps it in her wallet. And when she has a bad day or someone gives her a mean review, she pulls out that list and she calls up one of her friends because she knows who really cares. And the more that we become confident in who we are, and the more that we're real and vulnerable, we're also going to realize something else. We're not alone. We always think we're alone. I'm the only one who suffered with depression. I'm the only one who had an eating disorder. I suffered with bulimia. I thought I was the only one. What other mom would suffer with that? I'm the only one who's done drugs. I've heard it all. I didn't do drugs, but I've done other things, and I thought I was the only one, And so it's realizing that no matter what we do, we're not the only one, and not to be afraid to share who we are. I heard something in a podcast recently, and I think it was on the Build Your Tribe podcast, but it was, this one guy was saying, the more that we repel the people who we are not like us and who we don't want, the more that we will attract the people we want in our lives. And that helped a lot with that fear of what will people think, of not caring, of realizing the more we repel the people we don't want, the more we'll attract the people we do. So how do we fight fear and dare to dream? We need to overcome it. So my book is actually separated in Name It and Claim It and Overcome It, so that we can really figure out what fear is it that's holding us back. And then here's what we have to do to overcome those fears. First of all, we need to be able to break them down. So when we're going to do something, let's say post something on Facebook, and we're feeling that fear, there are two types of fear. There's real fear, where we are not safe. And there's perceived fear, where we are actually quite safe, but we don't feel it. Like, we feel the same fear in each, like when you're jumping out of a plane, you don't have a parachute, you're going to feel terrified and you're not safe. So you have an absolute right to feel absolutely terrified. If you're jumping out of a plane with a parachute, more than likely you're okay, but you're still going to feel very often that terror. However, you're quite safe. The same is with bungee jumping, watching a scary movie. We're quite safe in our home, but yet we still feel terrified. And so being able to break fear down into those two categories is awesome, because then when we go to send an invite to someone and we feel that fear, we can say, all right, is this something I really need to worry about? Is there a real fear here, or am I just feeling it because I'm just those root fears in the past or whatever that are giving me this fear that I'm going to be rejected. Even though I know this person loves me, I'm giving them an out and it's going to be okay. So if we can break that down, it helps us move through that fear. The more we move through it, the easier it is to overcome. So there are three facets of fear. And again, this helps with knowing where is our fear coming from. Fear of the known, what we've been through. So if you get a blood drawn and you know that needle is going to go through, you might wince because you know it's going to hurt. It's the same thing with our fears. Why are we afraid of rejection? So often it's because we were rejected in the past. Or why are we afraid of not being wanted? Whatever it is, that root fear is, very often it's connected to something we've already been through. Or it can be connected to something we have absolutely no clue what's next, and we don't like being in the unknown. And then, of course, it could be the inevitable, which in this case, I don't know. I was trying to think of a case that worked with the invites and stuff, but inevitable would be afraid of the fact that you have to go through labor if you're going to have a baby, and knowing regardless, you're either going to go through labor or you're going to have a C-section, but either way, there's going to be pain involved. That would be what fear of the inevitable is. So the more that we understand the fear that we're feeling, the more that we can work through it. And of course, I'm going to go through some things that we have already heard as coaches. I'm sure that you guys have heard this over and over again. But how do we overcome these fears? Well, first of all, guys, we got to know why we want to overcome them. When I had my big aha moment, I was lying in bed. That one morning I was lying in bed. I'd had two friends that I had just loved, had completely rejected me. And it had been a couple of weeks of dealing with this rejection and trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Why am I so unlovable and all these things? And I remember I was lying in bed one morning. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I would get out the last possible minute. And that morning, my husband brought me coffee in bed and told me maybe a playlist on Spotify. And my kids were just trying to encourage me to get out of bed. And I sat there thinking, what the heck? Why am I placing so much of my self-worth into what these two women who I cared about did. And that was my life. I cared so much about what other people thought that everything I did was based off of what people thought, whether I posted something on Facebook or not, or whether I went after this or went after that, or how I dealt with my friends. I was so worried. And that morning, I remembered what one of my mentors had said, and it was actually Summer Tucker on one of the team calls. And I wasn't really on the team calls very often. I think it maybe been only 2 of them. I wasn't really tied in with my team. And she's one of my upline coaches. I had heard her talk about her story, and she said the quote, if you want something different, you have to do something different. So that morning, that quote came to my mind. I know it was a God thing. It was like, if you want something different, you have to do something different. I wanted something different. I did not want my life. I did not want that to be the example my daughters had, that someone's mean to you, that you shut down. That's not what I wanted. So my why was big. I wanted healing. I wanted to be a better person. And, guys, that can be your why for your business. I also have my why for my business. I want to bring my husband home. I grew up in a trailer house, no money. I have always been tight on finances. I want to not have to worry about money. So I have different whys. It's figuring out the why that's going to get us through, whether it's the mindset issue, because that's one why, getting through the mindset, and then the other one's the business side. Our why has to be strong enough to push us through the hard times, to help us get up when we want to give up. And I will tell you right now, it's my why that has me where I am today. And of course, adjusting the mindset. So that morning when I decided I wanted something different, I decided I was going to start listening to personal development. People kept telling me about it. I thought it was boring as heck. I didn't want to have to deal with personal development because I'd rather read a romance novel in my free time. It seemed so freaking boring to me. But I wanted something different. So my husband had downloaded the book, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And I was scrubbing carpets, getting ready for my landlord to do a walkthrough. And I put that book on, and I listened to it as I was scrubbing carpets. And that was the beginning of my healing. It was the beginning of me learning to change this. Guys, we have to harness our thoughts and our brain. If we're sitting there all day telling ourselves how horrible we are and what a failure we are, and I can't do it, if that's what we're putting in, that's what we're going to get out. And if you're Christian, it's so funny. So much of the Bible goes right along with everything we're doing, because it's whatever is good, whatever is pure, whatever is holy, think on these things. That's in Philippians, and it's true. Whatever we put in that's good, when we put good in, we're going to get good out. My mom used to say garbage in, garbage out. You know what? She's absolutely right. So we got to stop the garbage. We have to make the majority of what we're doing putting good into our heads. And we have to keep our blinders on. We just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. We can't compare to other people. That's so hard to do, guys. But we've got to quit the comparison game. I can tell you so much about comparison. I think it's on the next slide. There you go. I'm on the DC Council. And I'm with Greg, who is I believe he's 9 or 10 star now. Nikki Johnson, who is close to 15. And Jatana Jackson, I'm sure you've all heard of her. They were all, Nikki and Jatana, we were all the same. We were all the same. And now look at them shining. So I struggled with the comparison thing. Now, I'm fine now. I worked through it. But now I still surround myself with the dreamers and the believers and the doers. So I surround myself with Jatana and Nikki and Greg and Amber. And I think Brigitte Linford is your upline, right? Yes, and I love Brigitte. I surround myself with people like that, because if we're surrounding ourselves with the dreamers and the believers and the doers, then we know that we can, because they can, so why can't we? We have to be careful who we put ourselves in contact with every day. If we're surrounding ourselves with people who are telling us, it's okay, don't worry about it, or why are you doing that, or negativity, it's going to have us questioning what we can and cannot do. You know, we've got to turn the I can'ts into I cans. And this is a big way how. Mindset. Surrounding ourselves with the people. And knowing what we're willing to sacrifice. Great achievement is usually born of great sacrifice. It is never the result of selfishness. I love that one. And that's huge for moms. You know, when we've got kids, guys, we cannot build this business with an office door shut and kids watching TV all day. That's selfishness. We were given a job to take care of our children. So we need to push and we need to sacrifice. But what are we sacrificing? Melanie Micho gave an awesome talk at Summit about getting up at 5 a.m. every day. I'm still working on that one. You know, or staying up later at night during nap time, doing that, giving up our Netflix. You know, and we knowing that we can do hard things. And I'm going to get into that in a second because that is another huge thing. But we have to be willing to do the sacrifice because this can happen. I've seen it happen. I've seen so many people pass me up in this business. And the only difference is they worked harder and smarter than I did. Success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. Guys, I used to be a perfectionist. I still struggle sometimes, but I used to spend hours on one of my flyers for a challenge. Hours. I would almost spend a whole day making sure all the lines were perfect. I was a designer. I've done design on Photoshop. The lines had to be perfect. It had to look right. You should know that we don't have to have perfect flyers for what we do. Perfectionism can be paralyzing. But learning and understanding that failure is part of the process is also a huge growth thing, not just in business, but even as parents. Realizing that our house does not have to be perfectly clean. Realizing that, you know what, well, you can judge me on this, I guess, if you want. Our kids don't need a bath every single night. Actually, it's not even good for them, according to some doctors, right? You know, we can't compare ourselves to other mothers who seem to have everything perfect. Because I'm telling you right now, they don't. They're hiding something. Maybe it's the glass of wine or the bottle of wine they have to drink at night, you know. But we all struggle. We all have our struggles. And we might, like, perfectionism is something I'm constantly struggling with. But the more we go through the struggle and we work against it, the easier it is to win the battles. And that's the key thing to understand in changing our life and changing our mindset and changing all this stuff. It's battle after battle after battle. It's just like working out. We don't become fit overnight. We have to slowly build those muscles. And that's what happens with the brain. That's what happens with all of that. So we can do hard things. This is the last part. I hope I'm not going too long. I'm good? Okay. So we can do hard things. All right. I love this part of the talk because, guys, this is like my team's anthem. And I'm going to tell you all about how this became my team's anthem in a bit. But it is so easy to say I can't. So easy to say I can't. It is not easy to feel all of those I can'ts and do the hard things anyway. When I was 8 years old, I was homeschooled, and my mother told me to do a book report. I didn't know what a book report was, and I remember thinking, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't. Before I knew it, I was on the ground. I was flailing my arms and screaming and banging my head. Yes, at 8 years old. So I know what it's like to feel. I still do that. If I am faced with a challenge in my head, I am that 8-year-old banging my head, screaming and throwing my arms. I can't do it. 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 And then I have to fight through that and say, yes, I can. It is a struggle. But we were built as amazing creatures and we can do hard things. But we live in this society where everything's at a click of the button. I want to watch The Princess Bride, I click a button. I want to watch a show, I click a button. And then, I want to see the next episode and the next episode. We're used to everything right away. I forgot something, I just run to the grocery store, pick it up, we're fine. So I want to tell you a couple stories real quick. Madeline Gwynn, Mrs. America. She almost lost her life in an accident and was told she would never, ever be able to compete in pageants again. And she was going to be in the Miss Alabama pageant. And she wasn't able to do that. She had tons of scars. She had to teach herself how to walk again. And she went on after learning, overcoming and pushing and doing what she had to do to walk again. Not only did she compete in the Miss Alabama, she won it. She competed in the Mrs. Alabama, she won it. She competed in Mrs. America, she won. She was told that she couldn't, but she believed that she could, and she did the hard things. Laura Pugh, she was a stroke victim at the age of 38. These are people I know, by the way. She was told she would never run again, never speak or write at more than 60% of what she had been before. Woke up in the morning, couldn't feel her arm or her leg, 38 years old. When her doctor spoke fear over her life and said, "You will not," in her head she said, "Oh, yes, I will." And she took a chair. She walked with the chair over to a wall and practiced walking against a wall. And daily worked. And the day she crossed the finish line, she got down on her knees and bawled. And she is 100% of what she was before. We can do hard things. And this is my friend Angie. This is where it came from. Homeschooling mom of 9 kids. She is one of my coaches. I'm telling you, she's growing slow, but she will grow strong. I've never seen anyone with more determination. One day she's talking to another one of my coaches who's a homeschooling, not homeschooling mom, but she's a mom of 6 that wanted to do 21-day fix. And she says, "Angie, how did you do it?" Angie lost all of her baby weight after baby 9, after not being able to do it forever. And she said, "How did you do it, Angie?" She said, "So hard." And Angie just looked at her and says, "Yeah, it's hard, but you can do hard things." And man, I was like, bam, that became our team anthem. Like, we've got a tank that says you can do hard things. Like, that's it. We can do hard things. But we have to ask ourselves, what are our can't do it's that are stopping us? We have to decide, is it worth it? Are we willing to do what it takes? Can we be successful in this business? Absolutely. Can we overcome all those things that are holding us back? Yes, we can. But we have to decide to do the work that it takes. We have to decide to do the hard thing. So what is living fearlessly? This is my thing. Live fearlessly. That's my thing. Living fearlessly is knowing that you're safe, feeling the fear, and jumping anyway. We live fearlessly when we feel all of the I can'ts and yet do the hard things that we have to do in order to succeed anyway. It's taking fear by the stinking hand, walking across that road we're afraid to cross and saying, "I'm going, whether you come with me or not, I'm going." We can. Yes, we can. And we just never give up. Face each day with courage and grace. And never, ever, ever give up on your dreams. Guys, we are worthy of dreaming. And our dreams are creating that legacy and that greatness. Our children watch what we do. I got my Mother's Day cards this past year and I cried because my oldest kids are 15, 13, and 11. And the cards I got were like, "Mom, you teach us how to be fearless. You let me know that it's okay to be me and be who I really am. You are my hero and I love you." If I had not done the hard things to get to where I am right now, I can guarantee you those cards would be different today. We just have to be willing to never, ever, ever give up.
Michelle, that was amazing. Like, I'm kind of speechless right now listening to this, and definitely plan to listen to it again. And I cannot wait. Hey, I'm on speaker here. And I cannot wait to share this with our team. Like, Michelle, it was so beautiful. Anyway, I think that it's so, I love how you touched on mothers and how, you know, you could build this business selfishly, but it comes down to making the sacrifices. I tell new coaches all the time, or people thinking about coaching, I really don't sacrifice kid time. It's my time that I have to give up. It's those pockets where I want to be reading that romance novel or whatever your poison is, you know? And so anyway, I love how real you were. I love how you do it. And I really encourage anybody listening to this, like, just go scroll on her page for just a second and just see. Because she walks this walk. She is living proof of being vulnerable and being out there and being her true self.
Thank you. And if you go to michellehilliard.com, I actually just posted a podcast that I did with Jessica Rodriguez on living fearlessly.
Awesome. I just saw that you posted that you had finished a podcast. I'm like, and she podcasts. So
I was a guest on someone else's podcast. I'd love to learn. Someday I will have my own.
That's incredible. Like, I can see why people want you to come and speak to them. Like, you have power. It's amazing. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. Does anybody have any questions real quick? Let's see. Stop.